Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan. I want to see my GOAT, Ilia Topuria, get himself a really solid title defense against a deserving contender in Arman Tsarukyan, who I believe is the second best lightweight in the world right now, before moving on to fight Makhachev. Because even though I love these super fights, we just had one and I feel like we kinda need to respect the order in the division to some degree. Plus, as the leader of the Ilia Topuria fan club, I want Ilia to be active and I want him to retire as the GOAT. And Arman Tsarukyan in his prime is a disgustingly good win to have on your resume, and I do think the UFC is going to be looking to make this fight early next year. So in this video I'm going to go over and break down this fight, and you already know how it goes. Let's go over the strengths and weaknesses of each fighter, starting off with Ilia Topuria. So Topuria's meat and potatoes is his boxing. I don't think it's too crazy to say that he's the best boxer in the UFC, and his boxing basically consists of pressuring, closing the distance into mid-range, where he unloads hooks, overhands and uppercuts. And to add on top of his skill, he has stupid power. He's the only man to knock out Holloway. Do I even need to say more? And people forget, man, he also has solid grappling as well. He was actually more of a grappler in the past before he developed an elite striking game. And he also got a crucifix on Charles Oliveira, which is some pretty crazy stuff. And I forgot to mention this, but he has a mean calf kick as well. Now his biggest weakness in my opinion are kicks, especially leg kicks and oblique kicks. He stands pretty lead leg heavy and actually a little bit bladed, which makes him extra susceptible to leg kicks. And if you watch back that fight with Holloway, this was very much the case. He was stomping and kicking that leg all the time, and Ilia didn't really have that much of an answer for it. Well, besides knocking him out. But sometimes Ilia Topuria is also pretty hittable, and by that I don't mean that his defense is particularly bad. I actually think he's pretty defensively sound, but because his style is so offense heavy, he often plants his feet and puts himself in the line of fire, which results in him getting tagged. But we move on to Arman Tsarukyan, and Arman is a very well-rounded fighter. On the feet, I'd say his best weapon are his kicks. They're super fast, super powerful, and even though his boxing is pretty mid in my opinion, he does have pretty fast hands. And he's scrappy and athletic too, and he has really good wrestling and grappling as well. He gave Makhachev his biggest challenge in the grappling on extremely short notice, by the way. Definitely one of the best grapplers in the division, but what really makes him stand out is his ground and pound. He definitely has the best ground and pound in the whole division. It's super exciting to watch, and it honestly reminds me a lot of Khabib's ground and pound, but because he's so well rounded, he doesn't really have that many weaknesses. However, I feel like his defense isn't the best. Like sometimes when I see him throwing boxing combinations, I just think, wow, he's so open for counters here. And I also thought he got tagged by a lot of single shots in his fight with Oliveira. And speaking of that fight, Arman himself said that the game plan went out the window as soon as he got caught up in that guillotine. And if you look back at the first Makhachev fight, bro was wrestling and shooting takedowns on Makhachev instead of disengaging and using his kicks. And his coaches tried to tell him to stop wrestling and use his kicks in between the rounds, but he did not follow their game plan at all. So his fight IQ might not be the best, but let's go over the win conditions for each fighter, starting with Ilia Topuria. And Ilia Topuria is obviously going to want to keep this fight on the feet where he can dish out his boxing, but he's going to want to avoid the kicks of Arman. And how does he do that? Well, it's either by being all the way in or all the way out. Pause! No Jones, no DDP. Now, but all jokes aside, he's gonna have to be aggressive and pressure Arman in this fight. Ideally try to back Arman up to the fence, because I think that's where Topuria is the most dangerous. But he can't just stay in and take it easy at long range, because that's where Arman is gonna get him with the kicks. Now, as for Arman, he's obviously gonna want to take down Ilia Topuria in order to neutralize his boxing. And on the ground, deliver some nasty elbows to my GOAT's face. But on the feet, he's gonna want to keep this fight at long range, use his best weapon, aka his kicks. And as we've discussed, Ilia Topuria stands a little bladed and lead leg heavy, so leg kicks are going to be great in this fight, as well as head kicks, because we've seen Ilia get caught by one before, and he likes to bob and weave back and forth, so if you time that head kick, it can be really devastating. But who do I think is going to win this fight, and why is it Ilia Topuria? Now, but all jokes aside, this is a really competitive fight. Arman is a tough fight for anyone. I think I even picked him against Makhachev when they were scheduled to fight. That's how highly I rate Arman. But he is gonna need to take down Ilia in this fight, because on the feet, Ilia is just straight up better, but he's also much more dangerous. And I know for a fact that he'll catch Arman on the feet, because he's been able to catch guys who are way better strikers on the back foot, like Holloway and Volk. And I understand that Arman's kicks are an issue. He can throw kicks to the leg, maybe try to set up a head kick, but Topuria's boxing is an even bigger issue for Arman. As I said before, Arman's defense is is a little bit iffy to me. And I certainly don't think his defense is good enough to survive against Ilia Topuria on the feet if guys like Holloway aren't able to. And Arman Tsarukyan can sometimes also get really scrappy on the feet, which I think is a horrible idea against Ilia Topuria. Like, even if you're watching this and you want and believe that Arman is gonna win, we can at least agree on the point that if Arman Tsarukyan decides to scrap with Ilia, he's very likely to get slipped. Because Ilia Topuria's power in mid-range boxing is just on a completely different level to Arman's. And I understand, like in the fight with Dan Hooker, Arman was doing good stuff on the feet, but I remember one moment in that fight where Arman was blitzing in and throwing punches, and it was landing and working well on Dan, but I couldn't help to think, man, that's not gonna slide against Ilia Topuria. And that's really how I feel every time I look back at one of his fights and I see him throw a boxing combo. Like, if you have no choice but to fight Ilia Topuria, you have to strictly stay to kickboxing on the outside. Because if you actively engage in boxing exchanges, he is eventually gonna catch you. That's just how it is. But obviously, Arman's game plan is not to stay on the feet with Ilia. He is gonna want to take down Ilia in this fight, where he can neutralize Ilia's boxing and deal damage. And the grappling of Arman is something I worry about, because he is an extremely good grappler, definitely one of the best in the division, and his ground and pound is so devastating. However, I don't think Ilia Topuria is chanceless in the grappling. He's shown good takedown defense in his prior fights, and he also showed really good grappling in the Oliveira fight as well, where he stuffed the initial takedown from Charles, then ended up on top on the ground, and straight away he just passes guard into a crucifix on Charles du Bronx Oliveira, one of the best grapplers off his back in the UFC. And when Arman fought Oliveira, he was struggling to pass into half guard, and he wasn't really able to get around that guard until the third round. But speaking about that fight with Oliveira, there were moments where Oliveira kind of strength mogged Topuria in the clinch, and Arman is a really strong guy, he has a really wide frame, so Topuria could definitely run into similar problems in this fight. But to be honest, I would trust in Ilia Topuria's grappling here, because he has shown to be a very capable grappler, and although I definitely think Arman has a clear advantage in that department, and it would get really interesting if he got Ilia Topuria on his back, but I don't think it's to the degree where he's gonna completely dominate Ilia. And I think Ilia is gonna be able to stuff a lot of takedowns too, so I would just have to go with Topuria in this fight. I think he would sleep Arman in the stand-up. If you look at the way Arman throws boxing combos, then you look at how Ilia throws boxing combos, it's a night and day difference. I understand the kicks could cause some problems, but Ilia has dealt with better elusive strikers who are way better at keeping the distance and fighting on the back foot than Arman, like Holloway and Volk, and Ilia Topuria was still able to find a knockout against them, so I can't see how he wouldn't be able to find it against Arman. Plus, I can't trust Arman to stick to a perfect game plan on the feet. He has a tendency to get a bit scrappy, and when fighting my GOAT, Ilia, that's just asking to get knocked out. And when it comes to the grappling, I actually think Ilia Topuria is going to be the one taking down Arman. Nah, I'm joking. I think he's good enough to stuff takedowns and not get absolutely smoked. And if Arman isn't able to consistently take down and keep Ilia Topuria on the ground, he is just going to get slipped on the feet. And listen guys, besides the fact that he hangs out with the top op of this channel, Hamza Chimaev, I like Arman Tsarukyan. Not more than I like my GOAT Ilia Topuria. As you guys know, I'm one of Ilia's top G's, aka top Glazers. But Arman seems like a pretty cool dude. I really liked his response to Ilia when Ilia brutally slapped him. I thought that was pretty funny. And he also just puts on sick fights and entertaining grappling, which is really rare to see nowadays in the UFC, because the meta has become to wet blanket people. When here come out the comments, you're a casual man, go watch kickboxing. Listen man, if you find that stuff entertaining, I bet you probably watch something else on your free time. Plus I already watched kickboxing and it's goated. So stop saying go watch kickboxing like it's a bad thing or something. Kickboxing is amazing. But I think that's enough yap for today guys. Check out my last video. It was about why Arman Tsarukyan deserves a title shot. But anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe for some of the best yap and breakdowns on MMA YouTube. Am I just an Ilia Topuria glazer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And also don't forget to share this to every single Ilia Topuria fan you know. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye!